Yes, sir, go ahead.
Yesterday we have seen the SCCM system prerequisition for the installation.
Mm-hmm.
We installed the prerequisite services what we needed, and also the SQL database. That's it.
Yes, yes, yes. So, yes, you can go on mute if there is a issue with your mic. Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, so in the yesterday's session, what we have done is we have looked into the different prerequisites. So we started with integrating SCCM with Active Directory. So for which we had to create a system management container on the DC, right? So let me quickly show you that. So today's session, it will be most of the times we'll be in the waiting mode because the installation might take somewhere around 1.5 hours. So most of the times we'll be waiting for the progress bar to complete. So let's utilize the time with if we have any other doubts on SCCM or the installation, right? Let me also bring yesterday's text file. Right, so this was the yesterday's text file. So basically we had created lab. The first server we named it as May DC. So we have domain controller, DNS and DHCP over there. The second server we named it as May SCCM, May being the batch. Okay, so May SCCM. And on this we have created, we have installed IAS, SQL, and today we are going to install SCCM 2012 on this. And on the third VM, it's just a client machine. We have Windows 7 over there, right? So what are the prerequisites? So the first thing is we need to integrate SCCM with Active Directory, right? So for that, we have to first create a container called system management on your domain controller. Then you need to delegate permissions onto that system management container so that once you install SCCM, it will start populating the data under the system management container, right? So you'll be delegating control to the SCCM server onto this container, right? And finally, we have extended AD schema. So I've explained why we need to extend AD schema and what are the different classes and attributes it would create. So there are around 4 classes and 14 attributes would be created when you extend AD schema, right? So we have discussed on that. And finally, on SCCM server, we installed IAS roles and features like remote differential compression, then some IAS management tools. We've installed .NET 3.5, .NET 4.5, bits. So those are the rules and features that we have installed. And then we have installed ADK 1607, right? And we have installed SQL 2012. And these are the download links, just in case if you wanted to download these and install on your Hyper-V. Or say suppose on your machine, if you don't have enough RAM or space to create these 3 VMs, so you can also create the VMs on Azure Cloud. So I've just shared the link to create your own lab on the cloud. So just in case if you're not aware of how to create VMs on Azure Cloud, let me know. I'm planning to actually create a small video for you how to create VMs on Azure Cloud so that you can start building your own lab, right? So on Azure Cloud, it will be like a 1 month free trial subscription. You can take that, but after 1 month, either you need to renew by paying money, or else what you can do is after 30 days, the lab will be gone, and maybe again after 30 days, you have to build it right from the scratch by creating a new subscription, right? Okay, so having said that, I'm also, so this is the container that we have created yesterday, system management, right? And Wait a minute. And we have delegated control to the SCCM server. So this is the SCCM server. As you can see, it has full control, right? Let me take you to the SCCM server. I just wanted to take you to the SQL Management Studio, and there's a prerequisite. So yesterday what we have did is we have installed SQL Server, right? So there's a prerequisite to it. So Amar and Anil, wait a minute. Let me unmute you from my side so that you will have a control. If you want, you can mute from your side, okay? So currently I've unmuted both of you.
Okay.
So whenever you have any doubt, you can ask a question. Otherwise, you can mute yourself.
Sure.
Okay. And also, Anil and Namir, Amar, you will have an option to raise your hand. There'll be a button to raise your hand. So whenever you have a doubt, click on that so that I would know that you have some questions to ask me.
Sure, Manoj.
Yeah.
Okay, so the issue, the error that you're seeing here, because yesterday I just realized that our domain, whatever we have created, right, the domain name that we created as mailab.com is already existing in the external domain as well. There's an external domain called mailab. So let me stop this internet. So what's happening here is, so when we are trying to authenticate, it's trying to connect to the external mailab.com. So let me show you what I meant. See, when you ping mailab, actually you are expecting it to connect to our domain, right? 192.168.12.1. Instead of that, it goes to 72, right? So there's an external mailab.com. Unfortunately, the name that we have selected, it was already there. So what I'll do here is I'll stop the external thing for a moment. Let me check. Okay, now it pings to our server 168.12.1. Right. So let me go back to the management studio. Most of the times in the labs, you'll find all such kind of stupid errors, not the real-time issues, right? So don't worry about them. Most of the times it will be related to your network switch, or some firewall issues. That's what you'll see most of the times in a lab. Okay. I see Manju is joined, but he is not able to hear us. Okay. So here, when we are installing SCCM as part of a prerequisite checker, it would see if all these IAS components or the SQL Server and other things that we have installed, ADK. So it will check if all of them are installed or not. If any one of them are missing, so the prerequisite checker, even before installing SCCM, it would throw either a warning or error. Okay. So whenever it throws a warning, it is safe to ignore and move ahead, right? We can just check if that particular warning is really valid or not. But if there is an error, we have to fix it, otherwise it will not proceed further, right? So one of those will be when you go through the prerequisite checker, it will ask you to check the memory on the database properties. So I don't want to set the memory right now. I want to leave it as is. I want it to throw an error and then come back here and set the memory. Okay. So by default, it's the maximum servo memory and the minimum servo memory are, the minimum is 0 and maximum is indefinite. So actually it should be the minimum and maximum should be 8 GB, right? So we'll come back here and make these changes, and I want it to throw an error, right? So let's start the installation. So I have already copied the source files for SCCM installation. So today what we are going to install is we are going to install 2012 SP1CU3. So that's the latest on the 2012 version. After that, all we have are in-console updates like what I've showed in the initial sessions. Like we have 1511, we have 1602. So the current thing is 1702. That's what we have, the latest one. Right. So what we'll do is, in order to install SP1CU3, right, R2 SP1CU3, the first thing what you need to install is 2012 SP2. I know it will be a little tricky to understand why are we installing SP2 first and then R2 SP1, right? And then we are installing CU3, right? So this part of installing first SP2 and then installing R2 SP1, most of the times it will be tricky, but unfortunately that's how the version naming has been done for SCCM. So basically what will happen is when you install SP2, it will also have the R2 features, but the R2 features will be disabled, unchecked, right? In order to check the R2 features, so what we have to do is on 2012 SP2, when you install this R2 SP1, which is just, yeah, as you can see, just 1000 KB file, a small file. When you install this, it will automatically switch that and make sure that it has these R2 features. But basically, if you go to the build version, both of them are same. Okay, there's no change in the build version. The build version are same. The only thing is the R2 features will get enabled by installing R2 SP1 file on top of SP2. Okay, and after that, so there were CU1, CU2, and CU3 released. You don't need to install all the cumulative updates. If you install the latest one, which is CU3, automatically the CU1, CU2 components updates are already included in the CU3, right? So if you remember my initial session, let me pull that PPT for you. So if you remember this session, see, so here, as you can see, we've discussed like SCCM2012R2SP1CU3. So this is the latest one, right? CU3, and after that you have all in-console upgrades like 1511, 1602, and then 1606, and the latest one which was released recently on March, which is March 23rd, that is SCM as 1702. So what we'll do is we'll go for SCCM 2012 R2SP1CU3, and towards the end of the session, not today's end of the session, I meant towards the end of the classes, we'll upgrade it to the latest version, SCM 1702, right? Let's proceed with the installation. So I have already extracted this SP2 here. Guys, do you have any questions till now?
No, Manavar, nothing from my end.
Mhm. Looks like Manju have some issues. He's not able to hear us, so he dropped the session for today. Okay, I'm going with the basic installation. Splash. Anil, you have any questions? I see you unmuted.
Yeah, nothing. Just want to say that.
Sorry?
No, as of now, nothing.
Ah, okay, okay, perfect. So any one of you, have you installed SCCM earlier?
No.
No, Manavar,
No.
nothing.
Ah, okay. So,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
Manavar, I've got a question here.
Mhm.
In SQL, you said the database size you're keeping it, and the default one minimum would be 8 GB, right? And the maximum will also be 8 GB.
Yeah, that's not the database size, it's the database memory.
Memory, okay, right, right. So, will that memory be constant for any number of, you know, clients, or what is it being dependent on?
Yes,
It
yes.
would be a number of MPs or DPs or number of clients?
No, no, no. It's not dependent on that. So basically, we'll use SSM will use if you don't set that to 8 GB. So what will happen is it might affect your performance. So that's the reason during the SSM installation, it's the best practice to keep it on 8 GB. So that's just a best practice. So minimum keeping on 8 GB is the if you don't keep it, installation will not proceed further. And the maximum keeping 8 GB, that's the best practice. So that is not dependent on any clients, number of clients or MPs. It is only to make sure that SCM will not use the entire RAM for your SQL transactions and hit your performance.
Okay, okay. And this SQL, what it will be using for is all your databases, right? All the information which is getting captured, all those information will be stored in the SQL,
Mhm. So
if
basically
I'm
what
not wrong.
Yeah, so basically what happens is when you're installing SCCM, so on all these machines, you're installing a client agent, right? On all the client
Right,
machines, the client agent is installed, and the client
right,
agent keeps on communicating with the management point for every 60 minutes, right?
right,
And it will
right,
start downloading the policy. For example, you wanted to distribute a software, right? So when you're distributing a software, so once the software is installed on the end user machine, whether it is a success or failure, so every single thing will be written back to the database.
okay,
Okay, so
okay,
not only just software installation, even the patch management, operating system deployment. So all that information is written onto the your SQL server. Not just that,
okay,
even the client agent will be keep on sending its hardware inventory and software inventory. Like, okay, this is the RAM I have, this is the current disk space I have, these many volumes I have, right? These many number of
right,
NICs I have, kind of hardware information, and also software
right,
information like these are the applications I installed on me on this particular machine, right? So all this information is
right,
stored on the database. So that
okay,
tomorrow, if you want to pull out a report on inventory, you'll just write a query or report and against this SCM database, and you can get all this information,
correct,
right?
correct. So to run this, like if the database size is too large, I'm just taking an example of 1 lakh clients, end user devices are connected. So if the database size is quite large, so isn't that something proportionate to the memory as well? Some, or is it, let the size of the database be any large amount, but
Mhm.
the RAM still remains the same?
The RAM still remains the same because the
Okay,
size of database, you see, it will have all the history records, all the history inventory, right?
correct,
And you also have some site management, site database management tasks, which will enable
okay,
you to purge the history data or with the data which is not required. You can always purge them, right?
okay,
But the RAM, what we are talking here is about the transactional, day-to-day transactional things which happen on the SQL server. That's where your RAM comes into picture, right? So as
okay,
long as you have a SQL Server standard, So we have, say suppose in the initial session I have discussed on, if you have SQL Server Standard, there are certain number of clients you can support, the maximum number of clients you can support. If you are moving to SQL Server Data Center or Enterprise Edition, there is a certain number of clients that you can manage, right? So based on the addition of SQL Server, you can say that whether how many clients you can manage, but it is not dependent on the RAM. You're getting my point, Amar? That was Amar, right? Hello, Amar? Anil?
Yeah, Manoj.
Yeah, was it you asking the question or Amar?
Amar.
Amar, right?
Yes.
Amar, can you hear us?
I think you got disconnected.
Okay, okay, fine. No issues. Okay, Amar says there's a problem with his audio. Guys, so why are you suddenly getting these audio issues? Is it same with Anil or Sai? It's not, right?
No, I'm on a call. It's very clear for me.
Okay, fine. So let's proceed further. So installing a configuration primary site. So basically what you can do is either you can install a CAS server, right? Or else you can install a primary site, or if you have any issues on the site, you can recover a site. Those are the three things that we typically do on this. Wait a minute, Manjunath has just joined. Manju, can you hear us now? Hello. Okay. Manju, can you hear us?
I'm able to hear.
Okay, okay, perfect. Thanks, Manju. Thanks for responding back.
Yeah.
So basically from this SCCM installation, guys, can you please go on mute if you don't have any questions? Anil and Manju, thank you. So as part of this SCCM installation, so either you can install the primary site or the CAS or recovery site. So in case of primary site, earlier what used to be happen is like you have to first decide whether in your environment will you have multiple primary sites or you'll have a standalone single primary site. Because once if you create a standalone primary site, you cannot create a CAS server. That used to be a case. That used to be the case earlier, right? But now you can create a primary site, and tomorrow if you think that okay, my company is going to expand, I need to create multiple primary sites and I have to create a CAS server on top of it. Yes, you can still do that. Okay, so in our case what we'll do is we'll go with the primary site. Okay, and we'll not go with the typical installation. I want you to see all those next wizards, and I want to give those values there. So I want you to see there. Okay. So let's proceed. I'm selecting install a configuration manager primary site. Evaluation copy. Right. Amma, are you back? Just accept the default license terms. Okay. So this is where you need to give uh, a download path. So basically what SCM will do at this point of time, it will start downloading all the prerequisites like language pack, Silverlight, or anything else which is required for the client agent as well as for the console, right? So by default, we all use the English console. On the client agents are most of the times those are displayed in English. But say suppose if your company is spread across the globe and you have non-English speaking users, right? You wanted to have the non-English console as well as non-English client agent, right? So for that, this is where you need to give a path so that SCM will connect to internet and it will start downloading the language packs as well as some of the prerequisites like, as I said, Silverlight and other features, right? So first of all, what I need to do here is I need to enable my internet connection. And let's give a path. I want to share this. Okay, so it's my SCCM source. Downloads. So as you can see, it first downloads the manifest file, and then see these are the different language cap files. Right. You can also open a log file to see how it is downloading and if there are any errors. So you'll have this configuration manager setup log file, right? So by default, if you open the log file, it will be in a notepad and it will be very difficult for you to go through it. So what we will do is we'll open it from a log viewer. So SCM comes with a log viewer called CM trace. Let me open that log viewer. Okay, so let me install the CM trace so that instead of viewing it in notepad, you can view it in this log viewer, which is much more clear, and if there are any errors, warnings, it will color code it with red and yellow. Let's open the log file now. Okay, as you can see, it's downloading each and every item. If there is any network package drop or it is not able to download something, so it will let you know here. And you can also simultaneously check the downloads location, and it will download SQL Express as well. See, these are different France, Spanish, Italian, Japanese. So all these are different language files, right, for the server and other things. Let it download. So as I said in the beginning of today's session, today there will be a lot of waiting period because the installation is going to take at least 1.5 hours, and most of the times we'll be just waiting for the particular progress bar to complete. So meanwhile, if you have any questions or any other things you wanted to discuss, feel free to ask me.
Or we have not done this WSUS now, and we have started the SCCM installation.
Sorry, yeah, WSUS, right? So that,
Yes, yes.
see, that is not a prerequisite, so that is good to have kind of. So definitely in your prerequisite checker, it will throw you a warning saying that install WSUS, but that's not mandatory. See, what we'll do is when we are doing patch management, right, in the patch management sessions, so before that I will show you the installation of WSUS and then configuring the software update point in SCM. So that is when I will be dealing with WSUS. It's not mandatory that WSUS should be installed before SCCM installation. Make sense, Sai?
Yes, yes.
Okay, let me respond back to Amar. Manju, what was the issue for you? Because even I think Amar is also facing the same issue right now, because earlier he was able to connect to the audio, but now he is not able to. What's the issue, Manju, and how did you fix that?
I don't know. I just restarted and I again cleared everything. Every day I'm facing the same problem. Like uh, I'm there ready before the timing, and I'm trying to log in, and I don't know people are connected or not. And twice I tried. After the twice it says that Agnes is not ready, not came. And the third time when I tried, it goes to fail. It won't connect. So again, I'll have to close all, clear history, all those routine things I have to do.
Okay, okay, okay. Uh, Actually, I've joined a little late, maybe some 3-4 minutes late. That's true, but I don't know how others are able to join and why it's failing for some of you.
Yeah, that two time only is allowed, and I keep on trying for 5 10 minutes. Third time it will.
Okay, okay. Manju, there's a lot of noise coming from your side. Thank you.
Now you are able to hear.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise from your side. Can you please mute yourself? Thank you, thank you. Okay, so as you can see, there is an error here, and it says while it is trying to download something, it failed, right? So let's keep on getting these errors. That's good, so that we can discuss. Let me see what's the error. So it says download failed here, and let me see what is the component for which the download failed. Okay, it's SQL Express edition. So when it is trying to download this, it failed. So most of the times it will be a network drop or something like that. So let me just rerun it. So if you rerun, if you browse, if you just go and click next, so what will happen is it will not download all these 56 components again. So what it will do is it will just download the manifest file first and verify if what are the components that are missing, and if there are only 4 or 5 missing, so it will only install those 4 or 5, right? So let's do that now. Let me say install. So it downloaded the manifest. It should identify that only some 5-6 files are missing, and it should start from SQL Express. If it fails again here, then we will check on the network side. Okay, so what's happening? So it's downloading SQL Express this time, right? You see, that's sometimes what will happen is it's a small network packet loss or something like that, and you don't need to get into the troubleshooting of each and every error. It's installing MS XML, SQL native client, some shared management objects. So it's verifying if all the prerequisites have been downloaded or not, doing a file hash check. Okay, perfect. So if you go back, you see, so these are the different server languages, and then it will show the client languages as well. Make sure that only English is checked and all others are unchecked. In our case, we don't need the non-English languages. Next, on the client as well, make sure you have only English and all others are unchecked. Okay, So this is where we have to give the site code. So in yesterday's session, we have discussed about the site, right? So here we need to give the site code. So site code is going to be a 3-digit number or name. It's alphanumeric. So just to show you, I can give ABC here. It will accept. I can give 1, 2, 3, all numbers. It will accept. Or I can give a combination of both. AB1, right? So it is just to represent your site code. So we have discussed about primary sites, secondary sites, and multiple sites, right? Like cache site. So when you have multiple primaries and cache, so how do you identify? Just give a 3-digit site code to it, and then you can have the entire description here, the site name here. So this is the second item here. The site name is only for your understanding in the console. If you don't know, if somebody doesn't understand by the site code, it is only for their understanding. We are putting a site name here. Otherwise, SCCM will understand only the site code. It will not understand the whatever name or description you give here. This is only for your understanding. Okay. So before doing that, let me stop the internet again, because as we discussed, there is one more mail app outside domain, and that may affect us while installing. Okay, so while this opens, since it is taking time, let us proceed with the next wizard screens here. So let me give MUI May as the site code, right? And I'll mention here May primary site. Okay, so it's asking like, should we also install the console along with the SCCM installation? You say okay, along with the installation also install the console. And I've explained that console is the main area where you do all your administrative tasks, right? So it is nothing but that's the one which is going to communicate with your site database, right? So now let me install the console with the site code May and the May as the primary site. So join the primary site to an existing hierarchy. So if you already have a cache server, right, and this is going to be a child primary site underneath that, you'll give the cache site here, or else you'll say install the primary site as a standalone site. See, typically this is something what you can relate to your domain controller. When you're installing domain controller for the first time, it will say, is it part of a forest? If it is part of forest, tell me the forest name, FQDN, or if it is the first DC, say that okay, this is a standalone DC or kind of it's a new DC in a new forest, right? Similarly here also, either you can give the cache or you can say install the primary site as standalone, right? We are installing a standalone primary, we are not installing cache. And guys, you remember we discussed like, when do you require cache? We require cache only when you have multiple primary sites. Cache is not going to manage the client machines. It is only for site to site replication. Only when you have more than one primary site you have to go for cache, otherwise there's no requirement, right? And we all know that each primary site can itself manage 1,50,000 clients. So there are very rare chances that you go for a cache unless until yours is a very big organization and spread across the globe, and you are creating more and more primary sites, 2 or 3 primary sites. At that point of time, yes, you can go for cache, right? So install the primary site as a standalone site. So it is just telling us like, you have selected to install this site as a standalone primary site. You can expand this site into a hierarchy at a later time by installing cache. Do you want to continue? You remember, that's what I told you. So earlier it used to be the case that you cannot install a primary first and then upgrade it to CAS, right? But now, tomorrow at a later time, even if you install CAS, it will still work. So I'll say, yes, I'm fine to have a standalone now, and future I will change it. Now it is asking for the database information, right? So where is your database? So in our case, we have the database on the same server, right? So we are giving the same server as database, and the default instance is blank. If you remember yesterday, while installing the SQL server, we have left it as the default SQL instance, right? So leave it as blank, and it will create a database as CM underscore, the configuration manager underscore, your site code. Whatever will be your site code, that is going to be the database name. So if you see the database now, under databases, you don't have any other database. You just have a reporting server database and the default system database, right? You don't have any other database. Now after once you complete this SCM installation, you'll find a new database there, which is CM underscore May, right? And then this is a default port, which is called service broker port. This is used by SQL for site-to-site database replication. From a parent site to a child site database replication, it will use a SQL Server service broker, and by default 4022 is its port. But just in case, if you're in your environment, if a different port has to be given, if your network team suggests a different port, then you have to come back here and change this port, right? Otherwise, this will be a major problem if the right port is not used here, because your entire site-to-site database replication depends on this particular service and this particular port 4022, right? So at any point of time, if you are having any issues, something related to database replication, right? So the first thing you have to look for is SQL Service Broker, and you'll look for this particular port. Guys, any questions till now? Okay, so I'm installing in the default location the transaction log files and the data files. SMS provider. So what is SMS provider? So we have discussed about the SMS console, right? So what did I tell? The console is the area where you perform all your administrative tasks, SCM related administrative tasks, like creating computers, creating users, collections, right? Adding the computers to the collections, or pushing the software updates, operating system deployment, patch management. Everything is done on the console, right? And this console in the backend, it connects to the site database, right? So there is an interface between the console and the database that is called as SMS provider. So console will use this SMS provider to connect to the site database. So basically what happens is, console is not something which will be there on the server. It can be there on any end user as well. Say suppose if you have some 10 L1 users and some 20 L1 support guys, 10 L1 support guys, and you have 20 L2 support guys, then you have some 5 L3 support guys, right? So all of them needs to have access to the console to perform actions, right? So you can definitely give them very limited scope of permissions based on their thing. If L1 guy, he doesn't require to push any operating system and other things, so maybe you just give him access to add machines to collection, but still he has to do that from a SCM console, right? So basically what happens is, he can install that console on his own client machine, or if he has any jump box or jump server, he can install that console on any machine for that matter. So when you install a console on any machine, so how is it going to connect to your database? So first it will hit this SMS provider server. So wherever you install SMS provider, so that is where it is going to hit the request from a console user. It will hit this SMS provider, and accordingly it will connect to the site database, either to fetch data or to write data to the database. Okay. So anytime if somebody complains and comes back saying that my console is hung, or my console is not working, or if there are any issues in opening the console, so the first thing you should look for is the SMS provider server. You have to see if the SMS provider server is down, or maybe the SMS provider server has got some other issues, some network issues. So you need to look for the SMS provider. The moment somebody says my console is SCM console is not working, right? So that's the reason. So what we are doing in our case, we have just SCCM one server for SCM, right, in our lab. So the same server, I'm making it as SMS provider as well. and the communication. So either you can communicate using HTTP or HTTPS. So guys, are you aware of HTTP and HTTPS? Sai, can you tell me what is HTTP and HTTPS communications?
CTPS is a secured site where we have login details and everything. HTTP is a normal this thing. That's what I know about.
Right, right. So what you said is right, Sai. So what happens is HTTP is it will use port 80, whereas HTTPS will be using 440, the secured layer. So basically, in your company, when the client machine is trying to connect to the management point, okay, or it is trying to fetch some data from the distribution point, what you can prefer is either you can say that, okay, I trust all my client machines. When they are trying to connect to me over HTTP, I trust them and I directly give whatever they ask for. If they're asking for a particular package to a distribution point will say, okay, I'll give the package to it, let them download and install it. So that is HTTP. HTTPS is what you will do is you will create a PKI certificate, public key infrastructure certificate. You don't need to know in detail about all this. I'm just telling you for a broader understanding, right? So it is nothing related to SCCM concept, the PKI infrastructure or HTTPS. It's a security concept, right? I'm just giving you an overview on that. So what will happen is when a certificate is issued to a client, and when a client is trying to access any company's resource like management point, distribution point, or any other server, when it is trying to access, so first of all, it will check for the certificate. So where it will see whether the client is coming with that certificate or not, right? So based on that, that is one kind of authentication. So it will say that, okay, if this guy has the certificate, that means he is authenticated to use the domain resource. So it will start giving it the domain resource, whatever it asks for, a package or a policy request or whatever, right? So basically, if you are going for HTTPS, you have to make sure that you have a PKI infrastructure. That means you have a certification authority and somebody in your company is creating those certificates for you, or else your management point or distribution point should be in a position to create self-signed certificates, right? Okay, if I have to give a layman example, when you are entering your company or your office premises, right, the facility or the building, you have an ID card, right? So it is as simple as that. So either your company can say anybody who is entered from the security gate, once if they're entered from the security gate, I'm allowing them for each and any building, every building they want to get into, if they want to go to ODC, wherever they want to go, they're allowed. So that is HTTP. Once they're in, they're in. HTTPS is like they need to have access card, and to get into each and every area of the buildings, they need to show this, and only when I confirm that they are the authenticated users, they have to get inside. So it is as simple as that. Your ID card and the PKI certificate are the same. Okay. So in this case, I can select to go with the, I'll say, okay, I'll configure the communication method on each site system role. I don't want to define as HTTPS now. I can define it later as well. Okay, so it says it is installing management point on mayscmlab.com, and the client communication would be HTTP. Similarly, it is installing a DP, and the client communication will be HTTP again. So if you remember in the earlier sessions, I told you there are almost like a dozen or more than a dozen uh, roles like management point, distribution point, state migration point, reporting services point, right? Software update point. So there are so many servers, there are so many roles under SCCM. But the most important one are management point and DP. Why? Because management point is the only server which is going to talk to the client and understand what client requires, and accordingly it will suggest other servers, right? So it is the main important point, like your domain controller. That is the one which is going to authenticate any user in your domain. Similarly, management point is the heart of this entire SCCM infrastructure, right? And the distribution point, that's the one where you'll have all your packages stored. It's a file server, just like nothing but a file share is on that server, wherein it has all these packages, contents, and whenever the request comes, it will give that content to the end users, right? So those are the two components. So I'm installing those two main components, management point and distribution point. Okay, I don't want to join this program. So this is a summary of it. Let me see. I just see that Amar joined. Amar, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can now hear you.
Okay, perfect. So
I just had to reboot.
you had to reboot your device or stop, go to training and start it?
Yeah. No, I had to reboot.
Okay, okay. Sorry about that. I don't know why it is happening, but yeah, Amar, we have proceeded further into the SCM installation. Okay. Anyways, the video is recorded and I'll share that link with you. You can look into the mist component. But just to give you a brief, luckily we are at the summary page just when you join. So basically we have selected a primary site installation. Okay, we are given the site code as May and this is the site name. So site code should be only 3-digit. It can be alphanumeric, either all alphabets, all numbers, or including both, right? So that's the site code, and SCCM will only understand the site code. It will not understand the site name. Site name is only for your understanding. Okay, and then
Oh,
we have given the communication protocol as HTTP. You can also make it HTTPS, but if you're going for HTTPS, you need to have a public key infrastructure certificate, the PKI certificate, right? And since I've selected HTTP, I'm saying clients will not use PKI certificate. Otherwise, if in your environment you have a certification authority, then yes, you can use that certificate and select it as HTTPS. So this is the communication between the server and the client machines. Okay. So this is the default installation
so
directory.
whenever at a later
Sorry.
sorry, and at a later stage, in case currently if I choose the PKI option as no,
Mhm.
can I edit it and do that, or can those changes can happen at a later
Yes.
time,
Yes. Yes. At any given point of time,
or this is
you can move from HTTP to HTTPS or HTTPS to HTTP. You can do that at any given point of time.
okay?
Okay.
Thanks.
But when you are moving to HTTPS, make sure that either you have to have that PKI certificate or else you can also have a self-signed certificate. That is, your server itself in the console, you have an option to select self-signed certificate. So the management point or the DP, wherever you are configuring this, it itself will issue a certificate, and you need to make sure that this certificate is installed on the client machine so that when they come up with a policy request or a package download request, based on that self-signed certificate, they'll be authenticated and given access to, right?
And any specific PKI format it has to be, or any format like any extension like PK7, PKCS7?
No, I'm not aware of any specific PKI certificate. So usually I use
Okay.
I export into the .pfx format and I just use the
Oh,
default certificate. Yeah.
okay.
Okay. And yeah, so this is that external folder that we are given, a download section for all the language packs to download. Right? Language packs we require for non-English consoles or non-English client agents. So we have downloaded that. So this is a SQL Server location. In our case, both SQL Server and SCM Server are on the same one. And this is the SQL
So,
service book. Yeah.
so another question here.
Please
So
go ahead.
is there any point of time when the language pack is used, or it's most of the time because this would be on the central cache server, right? The console will be accessible from one location, or even from different sites also it will be accessed, or different countries will it be accessed?
So there are two parts of
Scenario.
your question, if I understand correctly. So one part is regarding the console. So the console, I just discussed about that. So console is not mandatory that it will be on one server and everybody will access to that server. So basically what will happen is, say suppose if you have 50 technical users who needs to access the console, they can install that console on their own personal laptops, or if they have any jump boxes, right? So anywhere they can install the
Right,
console,
right.
right? But the console in the back end, it will hit a server called SMS Provider. Okay, so the SMS provider is an interface between your console and the database. So whenever somebody tries to access site database, so they have to first access they have to hit the SMS provider server from their laptop, and that's where it will go ahead and fetch the data from database or write any data into the database. Okay. So having said that, since everybody has a control to install consoles on their own machines, so say suppose if you have tech support guys in France and some tech support guys you have in Germany, so they need to they want to see the console in their own language, say suppose, right? In that case, they can have this language packs installed and they can access the console in their own language. Not just the console, forget about the console, your users. Say suppose it's if your company is spread across all the entire globe, so you have non-English users as well, right? So for the non-English users, the client agent, if you don't have English, so what will be the issue? So you might think that, okay, why would a normal end user go and check a client agent? He doesn't require to check client agent, right? A normal end user. But what will happen is, say suppose you have a software being pushed, right? A package is getting pushed. He will get a notification, right? So saying that, okay, a particular update has been pushed and your system needs to be restarted in next 90 minutes. Save your data. If this information he's getting in English and he is a German speaking guy, so it will be a problem. He need to see that in his own language so that he will understand the impact of it. Right? So that's where these language packs will come in handy. Okay.
So for such users on the client side, then how, if it has been updated on the console, by default on the client side will also be visible in the same language?
Yeah, so basically what we are doing is in the previous sections where we created, where we have downloaded this, we had an option for two things. One, console language pack, the other one is a client agent language pack. So there are two sections. So we have given for both the sections, we have given English. Say suppose if you select other language packs, so during the console during the SCCM installation, all the other language pack client agents will also be created in the SCCM console, and as and when we are pushing it, they will be able to see it in their own local time zone or local language.
Okay, and also I can do this at a later stage if I have not if I have by default taken only English.
Yes.
And at a later time I understand that France, Germany also would require this. I can still install the language packs at a later time.
Yes, you can definitely do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, so moving ahead on the SSB port, so I've explained that this is the SQL Service Broker, right, service, which is very important for a site-to-site database replication, right? So whenever you have any database replication issues from a primary site to a child site, so the first thing you will check for this is the SQL Service Broker. That's the broker service. You will check here whether if it has got any issues or not, and the default port is 4022. Just in case in your environment, if your network team asks you to use a different port, so check with them and use the other port. But by default, it is going to be 4022. And this is very important for your site-to-site database replication issues. Okay. This is the database name. So your database name will be always CM underscore your site code, whatever your site code, right? The 3-digit site code. So currently, if you see here, you don't have any database. So once you complete this installation, you'll find the database CM underscore May. SMS provider, this is what I was telling you, interface between console and database. So this is where we are installing our management point. The protocol is HTTP. Go ahead.
This database, the database you said, right? CM underscore May, which is the database name. How many databases we'll have to create? Is it only one? And if it is one, how many can be configured within that? Like,
I got
client agent, what is the requirement?
Yes, I got your point. Just a minute. So what I'll do is I'll click on next because this is going to take its own sweet time, like 40-45 minutes. Okay, yeah. So then we'll start discussing on the SQL part, definitely. Okay. So I'm just holding your question for 2 minutes. So management point. So the management point is going to be your the same SCM server which HTTP, and distribution point also on the same server with HTTP. Let's proceed here, and So first of all, I'm expecting error here, right? The error would be the 8 GB error.
Yeah.
Let's see that. And so Sai, you have asked about WSUS, right? So this is what I was telling you. You'll get a warning here, but it's not mandatory that you need to have WSUS. That is required for your software updates management. And what we will do is, as part of our software update management sessions, right? That is when we are going to install WSUS and then install the SCM software update point, right? So if you see here, what are the issues? First one, WSUS, right? Second one, it says verify site server permissions to publish to Active Directory. This is what we have already given, right? We have given permission down to the system management container. So what it says here is the computer account for the site server must have full control permissions to the system management container in its Active Directory. You can ignore this warning if you have manually verified these permissions, right? We have already manually verified these permissions on system management container. We have your SCCM server full control, right? So you can ignore this as well. Now coming to your configuration for SQL Server memory usage. The SQL Server is configured for unlimited memory usage. You should configure to have a maximum limit. Instead of unlimited, it should have some maximum limit because it will hit performance, right? And as I told you, the minimum should be a reserve minimum of 8 GB, right? So the minimum what you'll do is you'll put it as 8 GB, and maximum what you can do here is let's put 8 GB as a best practice. That's what I was telling you. There is no maximum limit as such, but as a best practice, it is good to have 8 GB. Otherwise, it will hit your performance. So let's do one thing. Go back to our memory, set this, and rerun this check. So how do you do that? You go to your SQL Management Studio, go to Properties, Memory. So 8 GB turns into what? 1024 into 8, 8192, right? Okay. 8192, 8192. Right. So let's go back here, rerun the check again. So this time you should not see the last two warnings. Right. So you have only the WSUS thing and the site server permissions, which we have already checked, and we are okay to proceed further. And let me also stop this internet connectivity. For some reason this is taking a lot of time. Perfect. Disable internet. Okay, we're good to start now. Begin installation. Guys, this is going to take some 45 to 50 minutes. It is going to create the database first, right? So let me close the management studio. And what you can do is at this point of time, you can have this configuration manager setup open and you can check for any errors. And let me also warn you, like every time it becomes red, that doesn't mean it's an error. Okay. Okay, wait a minute. So here it is trying to download something and it doesn't have internet. Where were we? Okay, I have to give the internet connection once again. I should have disabled it after this product update download. Ideally, you should not be worried about disabling this internet and enabling it back in the production environment. Here I'm doing it because unfortunately the domain name what we have selected mailab.com is already existing in the outside network, so that might cause issues. That's the reason I'm always making sure that our domain is turned off. Okay. Let me quickly run through it. Now I don't want to explain each and everything, so let me quickly do it now this time. Next. Wait a minute. Yeah, install our primary site, evaluation copy, accept the terms. Okay, this time no need to download it again. Already we have downloaded, so directly give that location. It's May SCCM sources source, right? What's that? Source downloads. A record download verify prerequisite component view the. So we have all of them here, right? Including the manifest file. Do we have it here, manifest? While attempting to download or verify required prerequisite components, setup cannot contribute the log file for details. Okay. Okay, the manifest.cap file is not found. Ideally, there should be manifest file. Why is it missing? Never mind. Let's do one thing. I'll give the same location. So I'm hoping that even if it downloads manifest file, since it finds that everything is already there, it should skip. Let it download the manifest file and then skip. Okay. Next. Okay. It's downloading the manifest file and it will identify all the 56 are there, so it will not download it again. Okay, so it skipped downloading because all these language. And Ahmad, this is what I was telling you. So this is for the server thing, English, and all other things are unchecked. And then this is for the client language. So English and all other things are unchecked. So later point, if you want, you can check them. And the site code we wanted to give May. This is May primary site. Okay, also install the console. This is the installation folder location. This is the primary site and it is a standalone site. Yes. This is where my SQL is there. Default is blank. This is my database cm_may and 4022 is the service broker port. Default location for data file and transaction files. SMS provider on the same server. All site systems, no, I don't want to have HTTPS. I don't have PK infrastructure. So HTTP. This is my management point, DP with both HTTP. That's it. Anil, I know you need to leave in another 10 minutes or so. Feel free to drop off. Um, I still have,
Sure.
because the video is still recording, so I can share that recorded video to you. Whatever you're missing, you can find it on Google Drive.
Yeah. Okay, then yeah, next 10 minutes I will take this call and I will leave it.
Sure. So do you have any questions, Anil, in today's session?
Nothing.
So today it's all installation. So I don't think,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
you'll find many questions here. So Anil and Amma, for your understanding, so basically what you can do is if you have any questions later on, you can drop me a mail, and I would seriously recommend both of you to start creating your own lab at the earliest. So since we have completed lab creation now, starting from tomorrow, I'll be dwelling into the concepts like inventory management and other things. So when I show you all of them, it'll be nice to look at it, but once you want to replicate them on your own server, that's when you'll face different kind of issues, right? So I want you to build the lab at the earliest, maybe over the weekend if possible, and by Monday if you're all ready with the lab, um, that's the latest that I'm expecting. If you can do it even before that, that would be great. So if you have by Monday, then it'll be good for our classes. Okay. So Anil and Amar, do you have your Hyper-V setup and everything, or do you want me to help you on creating the lab on Azure?
No, Manor, I don't have a setup, but yes, we could work it out how we set it up in Azure. Or if you can, if you have some kind of document, we'll try to set it up on our own.
Sure, sure. So what I'll do is, if possible, I'll try to create a video of creating that VMs on Azure. I'll create a free trial subscription. I'll create on Azure. I'll try to do that, and I'll send that video by tonight so that you can use it.
Okay.
Or else, if you already have enough RAM on your machine, like 8 GB, 8 GB, if you have, you can use it.
System center configuration manager. So
Hey,
today's session would be an overview on system center configuration manager
guys, I think
2012.
somebody is running running my earlier video.
That's my end, sorry.
Okay, fine. See, you know what? It's very hard to hear your own voice, buddy. That's the worst part. You can hear others' voice, but your own voice, that's the worst part. Don't ever do that again. Okay. So guys, this is going to take some 40-45 minutes. If you have questions, I'm ready. Or if you want to take a break, go and come back, that's fine. Or else if you want to drop for today's session, it's fine because the session will be still recorded. So what I'm going to do after this, so this is going to take some 40 minutes. So after that, I have to install, as I told you, let me show the process once again. Quickly in 2 minutes, I'll show the process. Resource, yeah. So currently we are installing this SP2. After that we are going to install this R2 SP1, which is going to just switch the R2 features, and on top of it we are going to install the CU3. So this R2 thing will just take 2 minutes, it will not take much time, but the CU3, it is going to take another 15 minutes. So I think another 45 minutes here and 15 minutes, another 1 hour installation is still left over. So if you want, you can stay with me, or else you can drop off.
Manohar,
Yes?
hello,
Yeah, yeah.
Anil.
Yeah, Anil, go ahead.
So when are you going to change the timings to 6 to 8
Let's
for
have it.
this batch? Do you want me to join for this batch or next batch?
So let's have a discussion right now. Let's make it open discussion. So,
Okay.
Sai, are you okay for the 6 o'clock session? 6 to 8 instead of 6:30 to 8:30?
Yeah, man.
Okay. What about you, Manju? Manju, are you okay for 6 to 8?
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. So there you go, Anil. You have the answer, and Balu is even Balu have the issue. He has to go to office by 8 o'clock. So even he comes, he leaves the call a little early. So I'm sure that Balu will say yes for 6 to 8. And Amar, what about you?
I'm fine, Manor. I'm fine for 6 to
Okay,
8 also.
okay, okay. So Anil, there you have your answer. So if you have made your mind to attend my sessions, then you can come at 6 o'clock. Or else, if
Yeah.
you want to try with other trainers, so it's up to you.
No, no. Okay. And so till now you have covered two classes only, right?
Yeah. So I've already sent you the Google Drive link, right? So the first one is
Okay.
introduction to SCCM overview, and the second one is
Mhm.
the lab prerequisites, just installing the SQL, IIS, and other stuff. That's it. And this is our third session.
Okay. So nothing much covered, right?
Yeah, nothing much is covered. So that's the reason I was
Mm.
asking you if you want to join sooner the better, because otherwise you have to wait for one more month to attend the same session, right? And
Yes.
most probably by end of May I'll be going for an on-site visit to US. And I'll be there for
Mm.
7 weeks. But that will not be a
Okay.
problem for this class because many a times it happens and I'll continue my sessions from US. So that shouldn't be a problem. But I don't know whether second batch I'll be able to start from US. So maybe that
Mm.
might be somewhere in the month of July, right? So that's the
Okay.
reason I'm saying sooner the better.
Fine.
So the SQL Server database, yeah, sorry. Now let's go back to your question number. You were asking something earlier.
Yeah, Manoj. So the database name you had mentioned, right?
Mhm.
Will that be a single database or will it have multiple database? And if this is a single database, how many clients does it support? Right.
Okay. So first of all, let me open the PPT, the one we discussed yesterday. Okay. So here in this PPT, if you go to the last session, okay. So in the scalability, I think somewhere I've discussed about the database part as well. Yeah. So if you have a CAS, central administrative site, with site DB on the data center or enterprise edition, you can support up to 6 lakh clients. Okay. And if you have a CAS with a DB on standard edition, you can support up to 50,000. And if you are talking about a standalone primary site, right, the maximum you can support is up to 1,50,000 clients. This is related to the database as well as the primary site maximum number of clients it can handle. Now, the DB database, as you can see, the name of the database is CM underscore site code. So for every site, you will have only one database. Okay, as the name indicates, CM underscore. In this case, the primary site is MAY. So CM underscore MAY. So to say, suppose tomorrow, if you have, uh, let me go back to this previous example, the hierarchy diagram. I think this will help you. See, say suppose if your office is just in Houston, right? And all your clients, like some 40,000 end users are sitting in Houston, then you don't require multiple primary sites. You will have all your client machines in Houston and you will just have a primary site, standalone primary site here. But in case of if you have a branch offices in Seattle and Boston as well, so what you'll do, you'll have a primary site in Houston and then you'll check how many clients you have in Seattle. Say suppose the number of clients you have in Seattle are more than 500 but less than 5,000, right? So then go ahead and create a secondary site here. No need for a primary site, right? And if it is even less than 500, I don't think even a secondary site is required. You can just have a distribution point there. Okay. And when we are talking about multiple primary sites, right? Like you have in Houston, London and Shanghai, in that case, you have to have a CAS server because the CAS will not directly communicate to the client machines. Say suppose you have client machines here in Seattle, you have in Houston. So it is not going to directly communicate to the client machines. It is only communicating to the primary site so that a site-to-site replication can happen. It is only for a site-to-site replication. CAS is sitting only for that. It will never manage client machines, right?
Okay.
So,
Right.
so now what will happen is you will have a database like CM underscore Houston, CM underscore London, and CM underscore SHA Shanghai. So you have three databases here, right? And each of them can manage up to 1,50,000 clients. So did I answer
Okay.
your question?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. Any other questions? So anything else, if you are not sure about this hierarchy or if you have any other questions, feel free to ask. So yesterday I told them, and most of the students I'll tell this again and again, like even if you ask me 10 times, okay, if you don't understand, you have all rights to ask me at the 11th time. Never feel that, okay, I've already asked him multiple times and he might get pissed off. No, because my main motto is to make you understand and make you learn this subject, right? If my main motto is just to give you some interview questions, it will be very simple. I can just give you a link to OneNote. I can tell that, okay, these are the interview questions, go ahead and prepare. My main motto is for you to learn the subject, right? So keep asking me questions, and when you ask questions, I'll understand that you're actually thinking about the subject, you're exploring the subject, right?
Manohar, like I have a few general questions.
Go ahead.
So how it will looks like in a client end. So as of now, like I'm accessing SCCM as in a client end. So whenever a user needs an application or something, I will go to this application catalog and I will download from there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I'm facing issue with like unable to download. Then I will update this configuration manager or I will reinstall it again, and the problem is resolved. Like a user is able to install the package.
Okay.
So still, if it's not happening, I will report to my next level, and you will do something on this SCCM, and again the user will. So what is the going on the background?
Yes, so definitely I'll explain that when we are into the software distribution sections. But for now, I'll just give you
Okay.
an overview. I'll give you an overview.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
basically, what happens is, see, when a client agent, see, okay, let's take give me any one example, any one application that you are trying to push.
Uh, so maybe the application like we use in a Team Center. So user is trying to download the software
What
Team
is the
Center.
software name?
Team Center.
Team Center. Okay. So
Yeah.
now, say suppose your user requests Team Center. So what you will do is
Right.
you'll create the Team Center app. Okay, the application, the MSI or whatever. So you'll create that application in SCCM, and you have created a collection of your users. Okay, some 5 users require it. So for 5 users, you have created a collection. You push this Team Center to that collection. Right? You pushed means you have just created a advertisement saying that. Uh, Anil, can you please mute yourself? Because all this hey, please don't mind when I keep on telling you to mute. Please don't mind. It's only because once you hear this recorded videos, right, you yourself will feel all this disturbance. You lose the interest while while looking at the recorded videos. That's the only motto. Okay. Okay, so what will happen here is when you are running this when the team center is deployed onto the collection, right? The moment team center is deployed to a collection, a policy file, an XML file is generated. Okay, this XML file, okay, just assume that an XML file is created on the SCCM server. Now your client agent every 60 minutes by default it will talk to management point. It will say that, do I have any new policies, do I have any new policies? So that is the normal behavior. A client agent will be keep on asking the management point. So next time when the management point, when the client asks the management point, do you have any policies? So management point will say, yes, you have a policy. So there is an XML file just created for you. Let me give it to you. So it will give that policy file to it. And the client machine, it will open that XML file. It will see that, okay, I need to download Team Center. So I have to install Team Center. Now I understand I need Team Center. It will go back to the management point. It will say that, okay, now I know I need to install Team Center, but where will I get this Team Center source files? Where are the binary files? It will say, okay, wait a minute, you are in, your IP address is so and so, so you are in the particular location. So I think this is your nearest distribution point. So you have to check your nearest distribution point. This is what the communication comes from management point, right? Now the client knows that it has to install Team Center. It knows that it is in particular IP range and its nearest distribution point is some DP server name, right? Now it will go and contact that DP server. It will say, okay, give me the package for Team Center. It will download the Team Center, right? And after it installs the Team Center, whether it is an installation success or installation failure, it will send back the exit code back to the management point, which we call as state message, right? Now the management point now have the information that, okay, a client machine asked me for a policy. I gave a policy. It has evaluated the policy. It came back to me and asked for the DP. I gave the DP location. It went to the DP, it downloaded the application, and whether it is failed or succeeded, whatever is the information, that is with management point. So all this information management point will write back to the site database. right? Now if somebody wants to find out how many machines has Teamcenter, so they can directly go to this particular database, they can write a query, or the existing report they can just pull a report. It will tell, okay, these number of machines have requested for a Teamcenter. Out of these machines, some failed in the download state, some failed in the installation, after installation, and these are the error codes. So based on that, you can take an action why it failed on the download or why it failed on the network, on the installation, right? So these are the different stages. Now to answer your exact question, why is it failing on the client machine, right? We need to actually go through the log files which are created at each individual stage, right? From downloading the policy, or evaluating the policy, or contacting the DP, or downloading the content from the DP, or installing the content. So for each of them you have different log files. The moment you check in the proper order and check the log files, you will know where exactly it is failing. Make sense, Anil?
Yes, but where this log file stores is in SCCM or in a client machine?
On the client machine. You will have all these log files on the client machine. There are some log
Okay.
files which will be created on the server, like when a
Mhm.
client requests for the package, right? Teamcenter. On the DP, you can see DP is releasing that content to the client machine. Those are only couple of log files you will find on the server, but most of the time things will be on the client side itself.
Okay.
Okay, and there are reports, SCCM reports, so real-time reports are there. So while this entire thing is
Okay.
happening, you can keep on running that report, and any error comes, the report will update you.
Oh,
Does it make sense? Did I answer your question, Anil?
yes, of course.
Okay, perfect.
And do I have any advantage having a primary site instead of this DB?
No, primary site you need to have for sure,
Okay.
everywhere, but you can have a decision between having a distribution point or a secondary site.
Yeah, that's me. Like, is there any advantages having a secondary site or a DB?
Yeah, yeah, I'll explain that as well. So again, don't mind, Anil. Please mute yourself.
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
No problem. Okay, so going back to the DP and secondary side thing. So what will happen is earlier, whenever you see, basically what a DP does, the DP is nothing but a courier boy. It is giving the packages. So whenever a client is asking the package, it is just giving that package, delivering that package, the content to the client user, to the end user, right? So that's all the DP is doing. Now what will happen is, if your DP, earlier what used to happen, there is nothing called bandwidth throttling. Okay, what is bandwidth throttling? Say suppose 100 machines require for Teamcenter package. Okay, and all these 100 machines are started downloading from the DP, right? So basically what you are doing, you are affecting the bandwidth, you're consuming the bandwidth, because all of them are trying to download the package, and they're consuming the bandwidth. One thing. Second thing is, during the peak hours, say suppose during office hours, 9 to 5, okay, most of the people are working, they're using the same bandwidth for different other services, maybe for Exchange, Link, or SharePoint, or maybe they're using it for some other web services. Okay, they're all using the same bandwidth, and meanwhile SCM is pushing these packages to some 500 machines at a time, and it is consuming the 100% of bandwidth. Then there is a big problem, because it is affecting the quality of service for other users, right? So that used to be the case when people used to say that, okay, we don't want distribution point, rather we'll have a secondary site server in our own location. Okay, and we'll have along with secondary site server, we'll have a database and everything. So that's how they wanted to manage. But starting from SCCM 2012 R2 and all this, what Microsoft has done is they wanted to flatten the hierarchy as much as possible. They don't want to have CAS, primary, secondary, and then DP. So what they have done is put primary site everywhere. Okay, everywhere means wherever it is a bigger, the main head office. Then have distribution points at local branch offices. Okay, because now they have included this bandwidth throttling as well as the peak hours thing into the DP itself. So now what will DP does is, in the DP properties, you can say that, okay, you only use 20% of my bandwidth from morning 9 to 5, and after 5 in the evening till morning 9, use 60% of the bandwidth. You have that option in the DP properties. So by this, what will happen during the office hours, if somebody requests for a package, it will take little time, but overnight, the next day morning he comes up, or everything is downloaded and made ready for him. right? If there are any patches, they get downloaded during the off-peak hours, or any other application that they want, it will be downloaded off-peak hours. This way, you're making sure your quality of service for other applications is good, right? So since now the functionality has come into DPs, almost all the configuration manager users across the globe, as far as I know, most of my clients, my customers, they're moving into, instead of having secondary sites, they're going into DP. So I'm sure that going forward, as we are currently on SCM2012, right? So going forward, slowly people will completely remove the secondary site concept at all. They'll have just the primary site and DPs. And if you have multiple primary sites, you will have CAS, right? So if you are in a position to consult or give a design or architect solution to your clients, make sure that you avoid suggesting them to go to a secondary site. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions, guys?
Yes, Manohar.
Yes, I.
Uh, in SCCM server, we only install Windows 8 ADK, right? And that's the only thing we have done. Rest configuration, we have not changed anything. That's it, right?
On SCCM server, we have done three things, right? The first thing is we have installed IAS with some rules and features like bits, RDC, and other things. After that, we have installed ADK, and the third thing is SQL server. We've installed three
IAS
things.
installing an Active Directory, right?
No, 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 no. If you remember, let me show that prerequisite sheet. Are you able to see my screen, Sai? Looks like you are away.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So
No,
if you,
no, I was confused.
no, 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 I'm saying you are away because I'm getting some traffic sound. I thought maybe you're driving or somewhere. I thought you just have an audio connection. Okay. So on the domain controller, as you can see, I'm doing integration to AD, for which I have created system management container, delegated control, and extended AD schema. Only this I have done on DC. But on SCCM server, I have created IAS, roles and features, ADK, and SQL, right?
Okay, the thing is, I have installed SQL now, and ADK is also installed,
Hmm.
but I have not configured IAS. Is it okay now if I configure it now?
Yes, yes, not an issue. Unless and until you start SCCM installation, you can do it. Because if you start SCCM installation, definitely it will throw you an error in that prerequisite checker saying that bits is not enabled, this is not enabled, that is not. So you can still install IAS roles and features and do it. There's no particular sequence that first IAS needs to be installed. There's no sequence here. Anything can be installed before or after.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, cool.
And one more thing, extend
Manohar,
extend.
Yeah, Anil?
do you have any info about the certification on this?
Yes, so I didn't get the question. So you want to know the.
No, just yes, yes, yeah, about the certifications.
Yeah, yeah, I'll answer that, definitely answer that. Before that, Sai was asking some other thing. Sai, you're saying something?
Extended AD schema,
Mm-hmm.
it only helps to increase the attributes and the variables, right?
It
Only for
is,
that.
yeah, it is to create classes and attributes. So here we are creating 4 classes and 14 attributes. Yeah.
Okay, okay, that's it. Fine, and that's it from me.
Okay, perfect. Cool. Yeah, Anil. Yes, there is a certification for SCM 2012. So there's no new certification which is released for the latest versions, but 2012 you definitely have a certification for that. And if you want any, I can give you some SCM certification questions, but as you know, Microsoft will be keep on updating those dumps, right? So even if I give you a dump, that would be an older one.
Uh,
So I have a PDF. I have a PDF with
mhm.
all those questions and answers. At least I guess I have some 100 questions, I think. So that will give you an overview how the certification questions will be. No, I don't think the exact questions will come now because they'll be keep on updating. But still, it will give you an idea. If you want, I can share that PDF.
Yeah, sure, please.
Definitely, definitely, I'll do that. Anyone else wants the certification PDF, the questions and answers?
Manoj, I'll take it later stage once I understand this. Then only I'll go for it.
Makes perfect sense to me. Makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, that's how it should be, because most of the times what we all do, we'll give a certification and we'll get good rank, good marks there, but when it comes to the actual knowledge, that will be a problem, right? I've seen that many a times. To be honest, I got 1,000 out of 1,000 for Exchange server at one point of time, and if you ask me anything on Exchange, maybe I'll be dumb. So clearing certification is different thing, and gaining knowledge is entirely different. Okay, so let's see, where are we on the? Yes, you're saying something?
No, coming to the Microsoft, I heard it's 7 rounds of interview. Is it true?
Okay, we are on recording, buddy.
Sorry.
That's an offline discussion. We can discuss later on. Or else, wait a minute. For your interest, I'm stopping the recording. So the installation has been completed here. So let me close this. Okay. I've started the recording. SCM installation SP2 is completed now. So the next step here for me is to run the, wait a minute, this was already open earlier. Let me close it. E drive, source, and I'm going to run the R2SP1 and zip. I think I've unzipped under C drive probably. Let me put it under E source, paste it. Okay, so as I told you guys, R2SP1, this is going to take real quick. It is just an R2 feature enablement. Upgrade. Next. Accept the license. Next. Install. That's it. So R2SP1 is completed. And after this, I'm going to install the CU3. This is going to take a little bit of time. So let me run CU3. Continue. Select the where you want. So I'll put folder called CU3. E source CU3. Okay, so CU3. So Microsoft, after releasing 2012 R2 SP1, so they have released CU1, CU2 and CU3. You don't need to install CU1 and CU2. So if you're installing CU3, so it will automatically have all those updates which are related to CU1 and CU2. So it's a cumulative update, right? It has everything covered up to CU3. Okay. So as you can see, you can apply this update directly to the following. You can put it on a primary site standalone or a secondary site, or onto a console, right? So in this case, ours is a primary site standalone, and you can install it. So next, accept the license term. So next. So one or more prerequisite checks return a warning. So basically it says restart. So you need to restart an earlier software installation. So we just installed this one, right? R2SP1. After that, we have not restarted the server. So it says restart the server and come back and install it. Okay. So let me say cancel. Let's restart this server first. Manju, I see you're still online.
Yeah, like nothing. I just wanted to see, so
Yes, yes,
it's
yes. Continue. No issues.
said
Yeah. Please go. So if you have any questions, you can ask. I think others have dropped. You're still there, so if you have any questions, you can ask. Anyways, in another 10-15 minutes, we are going to wrap it up. CE3 installation will be completed. So today morning you missed the little bit, right? So you had any questions there?
No, I don't think because I didn't see. So it is just an
No. Yeah.
installation.
Yeah. No, what I meant was, what I meant was like, um, I've installed it again, right? I went back and I've installed it again. So if you have any questions, anyways, I would suggest you to build the lab. That would be the best thing to learn the subject.
It only the motto for me to obtain this. That hello.
Hello, Manju, you're saying something?
Yeah, you are able to hear me.
Yeah. Your voice was broken in between, but yeah, I'm able to hear now.
Yeah. So I don't know whether
Hello. Your voice is
yeah, you are able to hear.
no, your voice is breaking, Manju.
1 minute, I think maybe I kept a fan, so that's why. 1 minute.
Okay.
Now is audible clear?
Yes, Manju, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm not sure whether it has to it can be discussed here, but this is something like on my own motto why I'm joining this course
Mhm.
because I was trying to switch my field uh, to a different field. Therefore, I decided this field.
Mhm.
So even after this also here I have some difficulties because the environment is there. Same environment is there in my company. That SCM console is also there, but person is handling different person. So I am sitting along with him. So the problem is my manager has instructed me that you also go ahead and get it involved and take his responsibility like that.
Mhm.
Since just now in the recorded session you told that you had a certification on exchange and then you don't have a knowledge. The same case is for me also. So I had a certification since there was a chance has come to me. I had a dump, latest dump. So when I was there in company, so I had a dump. So I attended and I got passed. So, uh, but I should have some knowledge on it. So I'm trying to get some knowledge, but every time it is like not coming as an actually I'm getting. So I'm not able to do by myself. That's the difficulty.
Yeah. I totally understand. No issue. So since we are in at the beginning of the classes, so few things you might not understand. Like, see, you are just in the beginning of the session. Not only SCCM, any learning. Manju, a lot of disturbance is coming here. Yeah, thank you. So in the Okay, so in the initial sessions, what will happen is like most of the things will go over your mind. You will not understand. You have to keep on assuming. Acha, there will be a distribution point. There will be a management point. Okay, Manor is saying about some site, some boundaries. So all that will be kind of an assuming and imaginary things for you in the initial first 5 sessions, 3 or 5 sessions. But as you proceed further, as you start seeing the console, as we do these software installations, right? when we do it practically, I don't think you'll have all these problems. You'll slowly start understanding the subject. By starting from next week onwards, you'll start enjoying the subject more and more, right? So initial days it will be a little bit difficult, but have some patience, and I'm sure that you'll start enjoying the sessions starting from second week. Okay, so Manju, right now we are on the screen cumulative update 3. So what we did was we are just installing the cumulative update 3. So earlier it gave a warning that restart is required. This time it proceeded further. So now it says the update includes so this CU3 also it will also update the configuration manager console. It is asking, should I install update even for console? I say yes, install even for console. Then it will say, should I update the site database? Why not? Yes, you have to update the site database, right? And should I create these updates even for site servers, configuration manager consoles in the clients? Yes, you would say for everything. So basically what it will do, it will create these update packages, update package and update programs for servers, for console, and for client agent. So why do we need these update packages? So what will happen is in real time, see today this is what we are doing here is we are deploying SP2, R2, SP1, CU3, everything at a time. But in real time what will happen is like people already say suppose they are using SP2. Okay, Microsoft released R2 SP1, so they will install R2 SP1. After some way down the line, Microsoft releases cumulative update 1, cumulative, they release cumulative update 3, right? So they already have SCM infrastructure, they have some 10,000 clients which are running the entire infrastructure. There are so many users who are using the console, right? There are so many servers where this SCM is installed, right? In such a scenario, when you're updating to cumulative update, okay, 1, 2 or 3, whichever cumulative update, you have to make sure that all of these components are updated. In this case, in our case, it is just the first you are building a server. You don't have client agents, you don't have multiple servers, nothing. This is just one server you have. But in production, by the time you have this cumulative update 3, already you must be having multiple servers with SCM, multiple client agents, multiple consoles. So that is the reason it is asking, should I need to update all of them? We are saying yes, update all of them, right? In this case, we don't have any, but this is the best practice that you have to say yes, install and update all of them. Say next and install. That's it. So as you see, we have not selected any checkbox or any radio button. We have just went through the default one. So this is going to take some 15-20 minutes, and after that you will have your CU3 ready, SCM infrastructure ready.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, actually, I'm trying to whatever the things are, I'm understanding step by step. But problem is like when I'm doing it individually, that I'm understanding that concept only. So if it again goes in deep detail, was done and what is the result I got. So like what I was doing and what is the result I'm getting, where it is related. So that kind of.
So you're saying that you're finding a gap, right? You're finding a gap between what you're um, implementing and what's the result. Did I understood you correctly, Manju?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes, correct. Because since I am not regularly working for this environment, I don't have any in hand experience. So that's why I'm getting confused that like for example, let's take if there are any issue which comes to you, if you are aware about that, then maybe it is a new issue for you, or maybe it is an old one. You will be clear about that. What need to be done? This is the solution. Since I'm not aware about the solution, since it is it's not a small topic, it is if we are doing something, then it has a link behind so many things. So that's why I'm getting confused that what I'm doing and
Yeah, understood. So I'll make it simpler to you, Manju. See, first of all, when you're learning any new subject, okay, uh, don't think it is complex. Okay, first of all, the moment you think any technology or any product is complex, your ability to learn will go down, because See, for example, take out a very small thing like a plumber. Okay, in your house, a plumber will come and there is a water leaking. Okay, if you think water leaking is a big thing and there is something big needs to be done in the background, I don't know what's happening in the background and like that. So it is going to be a very complex thing for you. And you think that a plumber who is an expert in subject matter expert in that particular thing, only he can deliver it. He can do it. If you think that way, you're actually making yourself not to learn the subject. But when a plumber comes, it is as simple as for him, he'll just open that particular tap and he'll just put a washer there and that's it. The water stops leaking. So all that he needs to know is where to put the washer and where the problem is, right? It's a simple solution. The only thing is just because you don't know it, you think it is complex, right? The once you know it, it's very easy, very simple. So if I compare the same thing with SCCM, in SCCM, hardly we are talking about 4 or 5 things, which is software distribution, operating system deployment, patch management, right? And you have compliance management and reporting. So there are only 4 or 5 components which most of the companies would ask, right? Now when we just before this guy who Anil had a question related to software distribution in his company. He is working as an L1 or L2 SCM resource. I guess he's L2 SCM resource. So for him, he's having some issues related to software distribution. He doesn't know what's going in the background, right? So once if I explain that entire workflow, right, once you understand like where from where the client is talking to the management point, from where management point, how afterward what will happen. If I explain that workflow and you keep that in your mind, so next time if you have any issue, if you know the workflow in the background, where is it starting from, where is it going, and after that what happens. If you know that process, that's more than enough. Once you know that, that's it. So now you'll be in a position to handle any kind of scenarios. So take a baby step, take a small step. So we all have started running only after taking baby steps. We stood up, we walked, and then we ran. Nobody ran right from the day one, right? So no issues. I know it will take some time. So by the end of this 24 days, right, by the end of this month, you will be in a position to say that I'm very confident. You can go ahead and you will tell your boss, even if you want to replace me or replace him with me, you want to say, put that SCM administrator into somewhere else and you want me to take care of SCM administrator completely, I'll be in a position to do it. So you'll be such confident. Don't worry. I can assure you. I've taken multiple batches. I've seen so many students from different backgrounds and even somebody who doesn't have any knowledge to the corporate world, like they haven't worked in corporate for 5 6 years, they're just jobless. They learned SCM and currently they are working in multinational companies with after learning from just from my classes, they are in multinational companies working with, now they have 5 years experience or 6 years experience, right? So people can, without any corporate knowledge, without knowing system administration, nothing, they are able to work. But in your case, you already have 8+ years of experience. So don't worry, you will also will be able to understand the technology, but it will take little bit of time. Okay, I'm with you. I'm here to help you.
Okay, thank you. Manoj, I think your information helped me to understand what actually I'm facing the problem. Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much. Going to help me and maybe the information. And actually, would like to say the problem I'm facing here, like I'm not sure. Means I don't have any clarity that where is the loan start from which topic and what kind of positions are available. So what you suggest me to start uh, as a, for here I don't have any position allocated for the SCM part, but I'm just beside of that as a just supporting person, not started anything related to that. If I want to go out and see searching, what would be the best way to start with which position?
Okay, so first of all, what you'll do is once you complete this training, right? So you'll work with that whoever is the guy, right? So you keep shadowing him for at least for 6 months, okay? So that you'll gain confidence. You'll also learn this subject. You'll see physically how things are happening in the production environment. You can apply the knowledge that you learn here. Okay, so
The
I will.
problem is no, but problem is not sharing anything. So I'm searching myself. If any such situation or scenario comes, no, I'm searching myself and I'm finding the solution. But only with that. part, I'm finding a solution. So I'm over on that solution. I'm over. After that, I'm not having any other things to understand. So that is the problem.
Yep, yep, yep. But don't worry, Manju. See, that's how we all learn this technology. Not only this technology, any other technology, we all learn like we'll know. See, necessity is the mother of invention. You believe in that, right? Whenever we have necessity, that's when we learn anything or we do anything, we explore our potential, right? So here also what will happen is when in your company, when a challenge is coming up, when a small issue comes up, right, that's when you do Bing or Google, or you search in the forums, technet articles and everywhere. You find, okay, this is how others have done it and this is how the problem can be solved. Now the a wise man will do, what he will do is he'll keep this in his mind, right? So whether you're learning only one concept's answer or whatever, don't worry that I know only one part of this entire big ocean, and I don't know how things are working in the background. Don't worry about it. You will learn something new, right? Keep it with you. So slowly what will happen, as and when some new problems are keep on coming, you are actually adding all this knowledge to you. Then slowly after you resolve some 5 issues or 10 issues, then this everything will make sense to you. You will be start connecting the dots. Okay, you'll understand, acha, this is why I have done like this on the day one when I have this issue, this is why I have done like that, this is why the other guy suggested me to do like this. Now you will start understanding the broader picture of it. So when you are exposed to more and more challenges, slowly after 10 sessions or 10 issues or 15 issues, you'll slowly understand the entire concept. That itself is your knowledge, that is your wisdom. After working for 6 months on different issues, by the end of the 6 months, you'll say that yes, I'm a SCM expert, right? I understand that initially you are facing issues and you know only one part of the entire SCCM. Don't worry about it, and you rightly joined the right class. So this class will help you to understand you the background of the background what's happening. By the end of this 1 month, I'll make sure that I'll keep you in mind. Your concern, definitely I'll keep you in mind, and I'll make sure you're getting the background sessions as well, background knowledge as well. Okay, and so slowly what I would suggest is work for 6 months in the current company, at least for 6 months on a SCCM environment, and see maximum number of issues that you can resolve. And after 6 months, since by the time you will have like 9 years of experience, I don't want you to again start your career as L1 SCM support or L2. 9 years experience, you should be in L3 support. Okay, don't think that I have only 6 months experience, nobody will give me L3, nothing like that. People will see that you have 9 years experience, and you can say that you have worked for a couple of years on SCCM, and definitely you can um, try for an L3 role, right? And I think that should be the case forward for you. Don't get into directly into a consultant and architect kind of role. That will be challenging because consultant and architect roles are like customer facing and one man show. So whenever I go to any client, I just go all alone. There will not be a team with me or anything. So I go to a customer, I understand their requirements, and I provide a solution to them. And I am held responsible for their entire infrastructure, right? So that way, consultant and architects have more responsibility on them. So I would suggest not try for any consultant or architect kind of roles, but try for an L3 support. If you're not that confident on L3, go for L2. But definitely try for 99% try for an L3 support after 6 months. You should be doing well. Okay.
Okay, then, yes, thank you very much. And then, if it's not like that you told us
Mhm.
which role it was, not to go for like,
Consultants and architects. Don't go for any consulting roles or architect roles.
how do I identify it? Because the JD will be different and that will be different. So how do I identify such kind of thing?
No, no, the designation will be there, right? In the designation, if they are telling that you are hired as a consultant and as part of your roles and responsibilities, you need to design SCM infrastructure, or you need to architect SCM infrastructure, or you need to plan it, you need to implement. So something like that, if you have, where planning, designing, implementation, all that things are there, then better to avoid it. If the role is like support, if they say you need to support the end users, EUC, if there is a EUC department and you need to support the end users on SCCM infrastructure, yes, that's the role I want you to go for. Start
Okay,
supporting the
okay,
end users so that slowly, so your knowledge, see, in day-to-day life, what will be there is you'll have a ticketing tool, and daily you are getting SCCM issues. someday on a software update management, someday on a SCCM software distribution or operating system. Different issues will keep on coming. You'll be resolving them. That's how you learn that subject, right? So try for either supporting end users, okay, or else there will be some non-IT companies where they'll have dedicated SCCM administrator. Okay, so you can even try for a dedicated SCM administrator role. That is also one good thing that you can try, but don't go for a consultant architect. So try first go with supporting, second dedicated SCM administrator, wherein you don't have multiple clients, you just have one client, and only to that one client you have to provide help on the SCM. So like that you can go for an SCM administrator role for a non-IT companies. And third thing is consulting an architect. Maybe that is not for now. Maybe after 2 years, 3 years, you can go for consulting and architect roles.
Okay, thank you. Will this all learning will help me out for clearing any assessments in the company wise?
Definitely, definitely,
Because my manager has marked assessment, grouped assessment for me, which I need to clear. I think it is a L3 assessment he has marked for me, SCM related.
definitely,
So,
definitely. You'll be able to clear it off. So only thing is, all I need from you is from me. I am giving my 100%. I'll try to give my 100% uh, on the theoretical knowledge, on the background information, and also on the practical knowledge. I'll try my 100%. And from all that I request from you is equal or more participation. Equal or more participation on creating your own lab, trying to do whatever I create here today. If I create a software package, distribute to the client, I show it to you. So I want you to do the same thing again in your environment on your own and see if there are any issues are coming. So, and the moment you have that hands-on experience, right, it will give you a lot of confidence, and assessments are not a big thing. So immediately you'll be able to clear it off.
only the thing is like now I need to set up a thing, all the setup. It is not ready yet with me. So just till now whatever you have set it up,
Mm-hmm,
in that environment, I need to set it up in Azure. So it is again Azure is new thing. I will have to see how.
See, what I'll suggest you is, in your case, what I'll suggest you is, see if you can upgrade your RAM on your laptop, because I don't want you to fight with two enemies. Already SCM is one enemy to you and one enemy or one stranger to you. And then if Azure is another stranger, I don't want you to struggle with two of them together. So since you wanted to learn with a peace of mind, I would suggest if there is any possibility to get a get your laptop upgraded, or if you can borrow a laptop or desktop from your friends or colleagues, try if you can do that, because that way it will be much easier for you to learn and focus only on SCCM and not on Azure, at least for now.
Okay, now I have 500 GB hard disk in my machine, and 4
Uh, I'm not able to hear you, Manju.
like I said that I have a 500 GB hard disk in laptop,
Mm-hmm.
and the laptop I'm not using any purpose. I can utilize it completely.
Mm-hmm.
So what if I upgrade another 4 GB? That would mean enough.
So what is the current GB, current RAM you said?
It's a 4 GB.
Okay, if it is 4 GB and if you can upgrade it to 4 GB, that would be excellent. That's more than enough.
Okay, I will look after this. I'll check it out.
Yeah, because if you see my lab, I'm using like 4 GB for my SCCM, 2 GB for my DC, and 1 GB for my test. So I'm using like 4 to 6 plus 1, 7 GB. But in reality, what you can do is you can have 2 GB for SCM, DC 1 GB, and client 1 GB. So 4 GB you can allocate for your lab, and another 4 GB will be still with your host, right? So I think that way, if you can upgrade to 8 GB, the performance will be good. I'll not say great, but it will be good.
Okay, I'll try to arrange this by this Saturday, Sunday. I'll get this done,
Mhm.
and then I will have to set it up things what you have set it here. So help me with that. I'm not sure those all software from where I have to get. So accordingly, by following your videos. I have to set it up.
No,
Those
I
things.
have already sent you the link. So if you see my text file, so what I did was in the text file down below, I have put all the links that you yesterday asked for. Windows Server
Uh,
2012, 2012R2SP1 and SQL Server. So everything I have put the links so you can download from these links, right?
Links are there.
Yeah.
I didn't observe. Let me check.
So links are there. You can try that. And where do you stay in Hyderabad?
I'm staying here nearby Lingampalli.
Okay, and your place of work is it Gachibowli?
Yes, Manikonda Vikram.
Okay, because so anytime if you want to get the software, just in case if you are not able to download, right? So give me a
Mm-hmm.
pen drive or hard disk. So you can meet me outside my Microsoft campus. Give me the hard drive, so I'll copy and give it back to you, just in case if you don't find these softwares. Okay.
How many GB of pen drive you require? I have 16 GB, so that
I would
is enough.
I would say make it 32 GB or 16
32
GB.
GB.
Yeah, 16 GB should be enough, but that depends on what all you need, right?
Then maybe you can tell me exact size so that I can see for it, and then maybe I'll get a hard disk for it.
Or else get an external hard disk, no? Do you have an external hard disk?
Yes, yes, external hard disk only.
Okay, then give me an external hard disk. Create a folder just for all this. I'll only access that folder and copy only into that folder. I'll not touch the other contents on the external hard disk.
That, that's okay, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing much important I have kept it, all old things.
Yeah, okay, okay, okay. Sure, buddy. So this thing is still taking time. Where are we right now? It's still applying configuration manager console update. Or wait a minute.
Mhm.
Is it hung? No, it's not hung. It is still copying the files. So I'm just stepping away from the desk. Okay. So that I'll continue recording. So once the recording is completed, I'll close the session. So if you have any questions, I'll stay here. Otherwise, I'll step away from my desk.
That's okay. You can step away.
Okay.
Just I am closing the session. Yeah.
Okay, buddy.
So just I just explained my situation that what actually I'm in need.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally understand. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Okay.
Take it. Bye bye.